Previously on Hearts and Minds Aloud. Loss is an interesting concept, mostly because it's inevitable and universal, but also because it could be sudden or predictable. Loss is also very subjective. We value what we value, including the sentimental value we attach to belongings, without explanation. But certain kinds of loss can be very powerful and significant that it almost feels palpable. It's the kind of loss that is shared, that everybody can attest to. It's the kind of loss that makes you experience emotions so overwhelming that some of the time it manifests physically. It's the kind that translates into intense grief. Granted, grief is a natural part of the healing process. But what happens when it feels like your grief doesn't end? What happens when it feels like you're grieving forever? Elizabeth Kubler-Ross says that you will not get over the loss of a loved one. You will, however, learn to live with it. The account of my guest today completely confirms this statement. When Oforiwaa Attipoe talks about how she deals with the loss of her mother, it will move you, and hopefully it will help you grow too.
Completely blank. I wasn't showing any emotions. I think, God probably unplugged my emotion part. I don't know what was happening, but I was just there. And then I quite remember, my boss, I mentioned her name today, Oforiwaa. She's super supportive. She's one amazing woman. So it happened on a Sunday morning, very early in the morning. I think she passed around 7 a.m. So after that whole drama, I put it on our office platform that I just lost my mom. So I think my boss was on her way to work, but immediately she saw that, she just diverted there. So she actually came there to, manage my baby for me, whilst I took care of every other thing, because my sister was gone. Here was I with my husband and didn't know what to do. I couldn't cry. I had no emotions for once. I don't know why. And then I just went to lay by my mom on the bed. It's tough. It's been tough. I don't have the words to describe it. I laid by her for a while. And then the nurses were being funny as usual, trying to tell me to get up and all, but I was just gone. I knew my world has kind of ended in that regard. And I didn't know what to do. I was just off. But still, I hadn't cried because there was so much running through me. I think the shock, there are levels of shock. You can get so shocked that you don't even know what to do. I think that is where I had reached. I was beyond shocked. So I don't even think personally I was alive then. I think I was also dead. As to how I was going through the processes, I don't know. Till date, I don't know how I went through it. But let's just say, yes, so that's like the worst experience ever, my entire life. And I still don't know how I'm dealing with it. I guess I'm just living with it. So basically, I think the people who know me and the people who were very close to me knew my story. They knew how I had handled my parents' divorce, because that was also another issue on the side. So I had a very perfect family till it became the worst family ever, to my mom's passing. So nobody bothered to, if I should say, talk too much about it, because they already knew I was going through a lot. And today I say the most supportive person has been my husband. And I have seen sides of him I never expected or I never thought he had. I mean, he's been everything to me, my husband and his family. So Chris has been there in marvelous ways, if I should say. He's the only one I talk to, because I think, so what I even realized is my friends and a lot of people close to me, I think they felt so sad and so bad about the situation that even I felt some of them withdrew, not for bad intentions, but it's like when they call. So they were torn between actually talking about what has happened and trying to entertain me. Because in the circles I find myself in, I entertain people a lot. I've been so happy in life. I've never really had issues. I've been the happy-go-lucky person. I'm always there for people. In fact, if you spend 30 minutes with me, you probably laugh for 15 minutes. And that had been me. So everybody felt it was time for them to play that role to me too. But in a way, they didn't want it to seem like, okay, so they were ignoring my feelings. So they didn't want to joke too much too. And then they didn't also want to, so that was my observation. I think they also didn't want to talk about the issue so as to not to make me sad about it. So I have this friend Karen. So sometimes she would call and she's just quiet. She's like, oh, Inti there to sing. And she's just there. And I'm also just there. Because I was short of words. I was short of everything. And I also didn't want to bring it up because I think when I talk about it, the emotions get worse. So I was also very quiet, soaking everything in, dealing with a whole lot of things. So another major thing that happened that even made it worse for me was, so after she passed, I think 2 weeks after she passed, trying to have family meetings and all, I realized that I was gaining weight. And so I felt like, okay, well, I just had a baby. My first baby was just 6 months. So probably it's those, those breastfeeding and all those food you have to eat. Because when my mom passed, my aunties felt like they had to be there for me. So they were always bringing food. And they force you to eat. My sister and I, they actually put the food and then, put us on tables. It's like, you have to eat everything. Because for me especially, they're like, you just had a baby. You need to breastfeed her. So that was the most difficult part. I had lost appetite, thinking of this new baby, thinking of how to manage everything that was happening, being forced to eat and all. So I was like, okay, probably it's all the food that my aunties were bringing to the house and all of that. And then I realized my tummy too just started protruding. So I was like, hey, do I have an issue or there's a health problem? So I spoke to my super supportive husband. In fact, Chris has been there. He's in my face 24 hours. There was never a time he wasn't there. He made sure I never had 1 minute to myself so I don't start thinking or, getting sad and all. Chris was there, his mom, his dad, Ruby, his sisters. Like, as for the Attipoe family, I owe them a lot. They were always there for me. And my mother-in-law was supportive. Like, she was always like, trying to get the baby pressure off me and all. So Chris is like, oh, let's go to the hospital. Maybe there's a problem we don't know. Only to go to the hospital to find out I was pregnant again. Oh, Lord. In fact, the day the doctor said there was a baby, I couldn't even, look, there was a full human being. In fact, I think I had been pregnant and I didn't even know. I wasn't expecting to be pregnant anyway. Here we were in the, gynae consultation. There's a human being with hands and fully developed. And I'm like, where did this thing come from? Yes, I know you're laughing, but where did this baby come from? Like, it was so fully grown. Like, not even those, tiny stages where the babies are small, there's no hands, legs. This was a whole human being there with arms and legs. And I just cried the entire time. I was torn. And so I'm like, how on earth am I going to do this? 6-month-old baby. New baby. Dead mother. Why? So I almost gave up. In fact, and my sister too, so maybe I didn't mention, she became, if I should say, suicidal. Because I quite remember she just said she couldn't take this. So she wanted to end it all, you know, trying to pick drugs to take and all of that. So at that time, whilst dealing with my mom's death, the new baby, my 6-month-old baby, I had to be monitoring my sister around, making sure she doesn't do anything silly to come and add to all my troubles. Because around that time, my brother was also trying to find ways to come to Ghana to support with everything that was happening. And my dad is totally off the scenes. It was a very bad divorce. He's off the scene. So we're not even like in touch with him. So there again, Chris is like, don't worry, you can do this. We can get through this. I mean, this is like the most difficult time ever for me and him, but he's very sure we'll get through to this. So between me and him, I've been the crib type. I'm always telling us to pray and all, but I had lost it. So I don't know if I was angry with God at the time. Yeah, I think I was. I was like, no, God, this is just too much. Because I don't think my mom's death would have been, okay, so if I had gotten pregnant, it was like normal, yeah, you're making your family. But coupled with everything that was happening around, I was like, God, this is just too much. Like, why would you take her away at this time when one, you know, like my sister and I have no one. You see, so I think I just got angry with God, and no matter how everybody kept trying to encourage me to be that my usual pray, worship, the Holy Spirit is your comforter, self, I think I was just off. I'm like, I think at a point I said, I'm not going to pray again. I'm not going to go to church again. Because I felt it was just too much for one human being to handle. It's been the worst thing. I don't think anybody, I hear people's experiences are worse than mine. But I don't know. I think mine was the worst. I feel, till I hear somebody's own for me to say, oh, that will also be a very tough one. I felt like this punishment was just too much. Well, if I could call it punishment. And I felt like, God, you save people. You know, people get the worst diseases ever. And then they come back and then they come to give testimonies and church and all of that. So for once, I felt like God could have saved my mom. So as to why he allowed her to go, I was very angry. And then, so Chris would arrange some pastor friends to talk to me, and, you know, spiritual mothers and fathers to all try to encourage me, because I think I was losing it at that point. I would wake up, I wouldn't want to talk. I was just blank every day. I had very few words, and I felt like there was so much happening. So I think I wasn't able to talk to people about it. My friends didn't even know what to say to me when they called, even though they would come around and they would call my phone. In fact, my phone was with my husband. He was always picking calls. So I just didn't feel like talking, you see. So I wasn't able to talk to people. I was just off. And then they also didn't know what to say. I think it was that bad. Nobody knew what to say. They would just say, oh, you'll be fine. This too shall pass. All those comments, but trust me, nothing sank in. There was nothing going to do it for me. So thinking about that, I don't think so. Yes, people would try, but trust me, nothing works. Even till date, I would say there is never a day that my mom doesn't cross my mind. I don't think there was anything anybody could have done or said, and in my case in particular, so I actually confided in one of my aunties about me being pregnant again. And then you know those like traditional things, hey, now you're pregnant, you don't have to cry. And I said, why? why can't I express? And she managed to tell one or two of my other aunts. I didn't mind anyway. And they all sat me down to tell me that, you know what, as difficult as this might sound, they know what they are telling me. If there's a baby in you, there are some things you don't do. You should never shed a tear. And I was like, is it like a taboo or some spiritual something? I don't know, because I don't see why I shouldn't be allowed to express myself. And then they're like, they are adults, they know what they are telling me. I shouldn't shed a single tear, and that is going to affect this baby. Think about the future. Look, it was a whole session, and I was just like, what are these people talking about? My mom is, why can't I cry? And they said they know what they are telling me. They didn't go into details, but they said there are a lot of things they can't tell me, and that we, the kids of today, we don't understand a whole lot of things, but I don't have to cry. So I should try and make sure that whole period, whatever the processes are and all, I should never shed a tear. And I said, but it's eating me up. And then they said, if I don't take it, so they tried scaring me. They said, if I don't take care, my baby might have issues. She'll be a moody baby. And some scary things, either she'll come out with one issue or the other. So they don't want to go into details, but I should try not to cry. So they scared me a bit. They managed to scare me anyway. So I told my husband, he's like, hey, does this thing get any better? So 1, I'm not allowed to cry. 2, I had to begin antenatal classes and then manage my sister just to make sure she's also sane and helping me through the process. Deal with my 6-month baby. Attend all family meetings, because in our African, in Ghana, when somebody dies, there are family members everywhere. There are meetings upon meetings. I had to go through all this while pregnant. But I know, my work, they gave me time. There's this compassionate leave they give. So I was off work for a while. And then I had to do all this alone. With my husband anyway. But I'm saying, as an individual, I was really dealing with a lot. My husband did his best. But trust me, there's nothing anybody could say or do that would have made things better for me. So that's just me. I don't know, probably with other people it would have worked, maybe some psychological class, but for me at the time, no, nothing worked for me. And then they'll tell you, oh, you'll be fine, hey, there'll be some days to come, hey, you would look back and say, hey, I'm over it. I don't think I will ever get over it. I don't think anything would work for me. Probably yes, some counseling here and there, but nothing works for me. It doesn't work. Trust me, the pain is still the same every single day, because you go through life and then you have flashbacks. It's like there are days you are there and the scenes just play back to back, like you just remember exactly how everything happened. And then I just go quiet, and then my husband's like, hey, what's wrong with you? And I know he knows. I can get unusually quiet, and then immediately he knows there's something wrong with me, and he knows that's what's getting, because me, things don't really get to me. I'm not serious. I'm not a serious person at all. Like, I joke with everything, but this experience has changed me. Like, if I'm ever serious, then it's because I'm thinking about that. Or, yeah, it's very serious. Like, the loss of a mother is like the worst thing ever. And in my case, coupled with all these things, it was the worst thing ever. Trust me.
Wow, Oforiwaa, to say that I was moved listening to you is an understatement.
Yeah.
Your story tells me that you've shown such strength, and yeah, it's been a lot. It's been a lot that you've gone through, and going through each day now is encouraging, to me, and I believe to other people who are watching who've had a similar experience. Now, I know you say to me now that you haven't healed completely. You are trying every day, but you wouldn't say that you've healed completely.
Yeah.
When you think about how far you've come, do you think it's possible that one day you would have completely gotten over this experience?
Well, I don't think so. So what it is that I feel you just learn to live with it. I don't know other people's experiences, but with mine, I feel you just go through the days as it comes. Because my mother and I were so close. Every single day, like I have flashbacks. I think about her every day. And it's not the best. I think you just get used to it by learning to go through the day as it is. But I don't feel I would completely get over it. No.
So going through each day, what would you say has become your most important coping tool? What helps you cope the most?
Okay, so I actually believe, with the kind of person I am, God probably made me start a family just around the time it happened. And you know how this whole baby stage and all, it's very, very, very involving. Like there's a lot of work. So that is the only thing distracting me. So I feel if I had more time on my hands, I wouldn't have dealt with it this way. So now, you have kids. I have a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old now. But when it happened, it was a 6-month-old. And then I had a second baby.
Unborn baby.
Yes, I had an unborn baby, and the baby came just less than a year after she passed. So even though I had so much emotions to deal with regards to her death, I had so much in front of me too. So it was an issue of which is more important. She's already gone. Are you going to let your kids and your family suffer because of something that has already happened? Or this is what is in front of you. This is what you have to focus on. You need to look ahead. You need to stay positive. You need to make sure these children are happy. You need to make sure your husband is happy. You need to make sure you are running a family. And running a family is so not easy. Trust me, like anybody who says it's easy, I don't know, maybe you're using machines to work in your house or something, but it's not easy, that stage. So I think my coping mechanism has just been the fact that I've had 2 kids within an interval of just a year, and trying to raise both of them at the same time, combining it with work, family, marriage, and everything. So I think I had so much happening around me at the same time. So I think that is the only reason why I've been able to cope with it. I had to prioritize, which is more important. So it's like when I get a little time, maybe when all is said and done, the day is over, I'm in bed, then I actually start to think. But then your husband too is there. So you have to talk, you have to be a wife. So I think, some way, somehow, as to God made it such that I had so much to deal with at the same time. Raising kids it's horrible.
But you've become a superwoman of some sort. Listening to you, it's amazing how you are doing all of these things in the midst of dealing with your difficult.
If you say superwoman, I think I agree with you, because I still don't even know how I'm doing it. So, I guess the strength is still coming from God, and He's the same person who took it, and He's given me the strength to deal with it as well. So
He doesn't. Sometimes you think that He doesn't take away without replacing, right? Somehow.
Oh, He hasn't really replaced. So to say my second girl really looks like my mom. She's like my mom. So sometimes I just look at her, as silly as it might sound, I just look at her and I'm like, Mommy, is it you? Like, are you back? And then she's just looking at me, and she doesn't really understand what I'm saying. And as funny, my husband's like, oh, stop that, like, don't do that. But she is she's everything of my mom. So I feel like, oh God, but why did you have to take and bring another one in another human being? But yeah, so He hasn't replaced her, but He's given me things to, and it's soothing, because you look at your kids, they make all sorts of nice and funny things, and you're like, oh, Mommy would have liked this and all, and she would have seen that this is just her copy. And also my only coping mechanism has been the kids and my husband.
Family.
Yeah.
And also another area of interest, I know that we you spoke about the fact that talking to people didn't really help, and you didn't, and I guess in line with that, you didn't speak to a professional, in terms of psychological, psychiatric. With the benefit of hindsight, would you do things differently now? Would you maybe speak to a professional? Would you encourage someone who's going through a similar thing to maybe speak to a professional or someone they are comfortable with?
Okay. So probably, I think maybe that's something I might want to do, because I don't think I have healed. I think I've just been very busy with life. So life has taken its natural course. So I think probably I should speak to a professional, because my friends and family and the rest, maybe they are not trained in that field too. I don't know, maybe, the professionals have terms, they know how to take you through the stages of grief and all of that. So I'm thinking I'll have the discussion with my husband anyway, that probably we should seek some professional. In fact, my husband is also a professional. He has a way of, getting me off. He's done it so well for the past 3 years. It's been 3 years, and he's done it so well. It's like he's marking me, like he's staying so close to me that he can just tell when those thoughts are creeping up on me. So he's acted like the professional for now. But I think I would advise people going through the same things to speak to a professional, because I don't know, maybe I would have been better if I had spoken to a professional or someone in that field. It's just been family, friends, pastors and all bombarding me with scriptures here and there, and then sending me songs to be listening to. But sometimes it just doesn't work sometimes. So I think I might want to talk to a professional and then encourage other people to do that as well.
Oforiwaa, it's been more than an honor having you here with me today. Thank you so much for sharing, and for sharing so sincerely. I'm certain that it will be encouraging to all of our listeners. Someone who's going through this experience, who hasn't quite made sense of it as yet, would learn something from you, will be encouraged, and will probably have some guidance. And thank you for reminding us that grief isn't easy to get over. Even when you feel like you are healing, it comes in waves. You will have good days and you will have bad ones. But we also know that social support is really important in overcoming whatever situation that you are grieving. Of course, if you have your spirituality in check, that also really helps. And to know that it's a long and hard road, but eventually, hopefully, it gets better. Thank you so much, viewers, for joining us on another episode of Hearts and Minds.